The morning sky over Terra Nova shimmered with colors that Earth never had. Two suns rose over the horizon, painting the domed cities in shades of orange and purple. Children ran through the streets waving flags. Adults gathered in the central plaza, their faces bright with joy. Today marked 50 years since the first human settlers had arrived on this barren moon and transformed it into a home. Terra Nova was humanity's pride. 4.2 million people called it home now. The colony had farms, schools, universities, and even an orbital shipyard. Governor Sarah Martinez stood on the ceremonial stage looking at the crowds below. She smiled, thinking about how far humanity had come. Just 200 years ago, humans lived only on Earth. Now they had 47 colonies across the stars. "We built something beautiful here," she said into the microphone. The crowd cheered. "We proved that humans can thrive anywhere, can turn dust into gardens, can make family wherever we go." In orbit above the celebration, the colony's defense fleet maintained its regular patrol. Captain James Walker commanded the flagship, a modest cruiser called the Defender. He watched the celebration on his monitors and grinned. His sister lived down there with her 3 kids. After his shift, he planned to join them for the festival dinner. "Sir, we're detecting unusual readings at the edge of the system," his sensor officer reported. Walker turned. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple quantum signatures, big ones. They're not answering our hails." Before Walker could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive ships emerged from nowhere. They were dark and angular, covered in thick armor plates. Walker recognized them immediately from military briefings. Crash warships. Dozens of them. Red alert. "All ships to battle stations." Walker shouted. "Send emergency transmission to the surface. We're under attack." The Crash ships opened fire without warning. Bright energy beams sliced through space. The first human ship exploded before it could even raise its shields. Walker's hands flew across his controls, trying to organize a defense, but the Crash had too many ships and too much firepower. "Why are they attacking?" someone shouted. "We have a peace treaty." Walker didn't answer. He was too busy trying to keep his people alive. But deep down, he knew treaties meant nothing if you couldn't defend them. On the surface, the celebration turned to chaos. The sky filled with fire as debris from destroyed ships began falling through the atmosphere. Sirens wailed across every city. Governor Martinez's security team rushed her inside, but she fought them. "We need to evacuate," she shouted. "Get people to the evacuation ships." The colony had plans for emergencies. Every city had designated routes to spaceports where evacuation vessels waited. People ran through the streets, parents carrying children, the elderly helped by neighbors. But the Crash weren't just attacking the defense fleet. They targeted the spaceports directly. Captain Elena Rodriguez piloted one of the evacuation ships. She had just loaded 800 people when the alarm screamed. She looked up through her cockpit window and saw a Crash destroyer descending toward them. "Launch now," she screamed into her radio. "All ships launch now." Her ship lifted off, engines roaring. Behind her, 3 more evacuation vessels tried to follow. The Crash destroyer fired. The first evacuation ship exploded instantly, killing everyone aboard. The second ship's engines died and it crashed back to the landing pad. Elena pushed her throttles to maximum, tears streaming down her face. She made it to orbit, but when she looked back, she saw destruction everywhere. In space, Captain Walker fought desperately. His ship was damaged, sparking and bleeding atmosphere, but he kept firing. He had to buy time for the evacuation ships. His sensor officer, bleeding from a head wound, kept calling out targets. "Captain, we count 47 Crash warships. We have 6 ships left." "Then we make those 6 count," Walker said through gritted teeth, "but even bravery has limits." One by one, the human ships fell. Walker watched his entire fleet die. He watched evacuation ships trying to escape get hunted down like animals. The Crash showed no mercy. They destroyed ships filled with civilians, with children. Walker's ship took a direct hit to the engine core. Alarms shrieked. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes. "Abandon ship," he ordered quietly. "Get to the escape pods." "Sir, you should." "That's an order," Walker roared. "Go." His crew evacuated. Walker stayed at his controls, steering his dying ship toward a Crash cruiser. If he was going to die, he would take some of them with him. The ships collided in a brilliant explosion that lit up the sky above Terra Nova. 6 hours after the attack began, it was over. Terra Nova's cities lay in ruins. Fires burned across the surface. The orbital shipyard was debris. Of 4.2 million people, only 30,000 had escaped. Most of the evacuation ships never made it out of the atmosphere. The Kresh fleet commander broadcast a message to what remained of Terra Nova. His voice was cold and mechanical through the translator. This moon violated ancient, territorial claims of the Kresh Dominion. Your presence here was illegal. This action was justified under galactic law. You were warned, but humans had never received any warning. They had never heard of any territorial claim. The Kresh had simply decided to kill millions of people, and they called it legal. The surviving ships fled to Earth carrying the terrible news. Among the survivors was Governor Martinez, who had been forced onto the last evacuation ship. She sat in the cargo hold surrounded by traumatized survivors, many of them injured. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, sat next to her. The girl's parents hadn't made it. Why did they kill everyone? The girl asked, her voice small and broken. Martinez had no answer. She just held the child while they both cried. When the survivors reached Earth, the planet went silent with shock and rage. 4.2 million dead, the largest loss of human life since World War III. Centuries ago, Earth's government immediately called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the council, which consisted of representatives from 93 different alien species. He showed them footage of the attack. He showed them children being burned alive. He showed them evacuation ships being deliberately destroyed. We demand justice, he said, his voice shaking with emotion. We demand the Kresh leadership be held accountable for this massacre. The council chambers filled with uncomfortable silence. Finally, the council chairman, a tall insectoid creature, spoke. The Kresh claimed this was a legitimate territorial action based on ancient treaties. We never signed those treaties, Chen shouted. We never even knew they existed. This was genocide. The chairman's wings fluttered with irritation. Ambassador, the Kresh Dominion is a Tier 1 military power. Humanity is classified as Tier 3. The Council cannot force action against a Tier 1 power for a territorial dispute. Territorial dispute? Shen's voice was quiet now, dangerous. They murdered 4.2 million people. A reptilian delegate from another species leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, this is unfortunate, but this is how galactic politics function. The strong dictate terms. We advise your species to accept reasonable reparations and move forward. Pursuing this further would be unwise. Chen looked around the chamber. Not one species would meet his eyes. They were all too afraid of the Kresh or too indifferent to human suffering. In that moment, he understood. The galaxy didn't care about justice. It only respected power. Very well, Chen said quietly. He removed his ambassador's badge and placed it on the podium. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We will handle this matter ourselves. He walked out of the chamber, leaving stunned silence behind him. On Earth, the president convened an emergency meeting with military leadership and the heads of every human colony. The meeting lasted 17 hours. When it ended, a single encrypted message went out to every human world in space. Project Reckoning is authorized. All resources, all hands. Whatever it takes. In the Oort cloud beyond Neptune, where space was cold and dark and empty, construction drones began arriving. Thousands of them. Then millions. They carried materials from every human world. Soon something massive began to take shape in the darkness. Something the galaxy had never seen before. The age of human patience was over. The age of vengeance was about to begin. 18 months passed, and the galaxy noticed that humanity had gone silent. In the grand halls of the Galactic Council, delegates whispered to each other. Human trade ships still moved through space, but they were fewer now. Human diplomats had all returned home. The embassies stood empty. When other species tried to visit human colonies, they were politely but firmly turned away at the border. The primates are sulking, said the Kresh delegate, his reptilian face twisted in amusement. They cannot accept how the real galaxy works. Some species agreed. Others were not so sure. The Vex, an ancient race of traders, noticed something odd. Massive quantities of raw materials were being shipped toward Sol, humanity's home system. Metals, crystals, rare elements, enough to build 100 warships. What are the humans building? Asked the Vex merchant captain to her crew. Nobody had an answer. Human space had become a black box. Their border defense systems were stronger now. Automated stations handled all trade. but no visitors were allowed inside. When asked why, the automated systems gave the same response. Humanity is undertaking internal restructuring. Thank you for your patience, the creche laughed at this. They sent a scout ship to peek at the Sol system, curious about what the humans were doing. The scout ship jumped into the outer edges of human space, its sensors sweeping for information. It never returned. The creche sent another scout ship. Then another. None came back. No distress calls, no debris, nothing. They simply vanished. The creche military leadership became nervous. What could make ships disappear without a trace? They didn't know that each scout ship had been detected, intercepted, and destroyed by automated defense drones humanity had scattered throughout their territory. The drones were new technology, faster and smarter than anything the creche had seen. But more importantly, they left no evidence. Deep in the Oort cloud far beyond Neptune, something massive floated in the darkness. It was so large that it cast a shadow across entire asteroid fields. The UHSF Retribution measured 12 kilometers from bow to stern. It was the largest warship ever built by any species in known galactic history. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge, watching the construction crews put the finishing touches on the weapon systems. He was 53 years old, with gray in his hair and deep lines in his face. 18 months ago, he had commanded Terra Nova's defense fleet. He had watched his ships burn. He had watched his world die. His wife and 2 daughters had been in the southern city when the creche bombed it. Their bodies were never found. "Admiral, the final weapons test is ready," said Commander Sarah Park, his second-in-command. Chen nodded. "Proceed." On the ship's port side, a weapon system activated. The neutron lance array charged, drawing power from the ship's contained singularity drive. Yes, singularity. A black hole, small and controlled, sitting in the heart of the ship and producing more energy than 100 fusion reactors. Scientists had said it was impossible. Humanity had made it possible in 18 months when motivated by rage and grief. The neutron lance fired. A beam of coherent neutron radiation shot across space and struck a test asteroid 3,000 kilometers away. The asteroid didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, broken down to subatomic particles in an instant. "Test successful," Park reported. "All weapon systems are operational." Chen allowed himself a small smile. The Retribution had 6 neutron lance arrays. It had missile tubes loaded with cascade missiles, each one splitting into 1,000 smaller warheads. It had quantum shredder torpedoes that phased through normal shields. And most importantly, it had armor made from folded spacetime, a technology borrowed from theories about wormholes. Enemy weapons would phase right through it instead of making impact. "Status on the crew?" Chen asked. "All 15,000 personnel are aboard and ready, sir." Every one of them volunteered. Most of them lost family at Terra Nova. Chen looked out at the stars. 15,000 people who wanted revenge as badly as he did. 15,000 people ready to make the creche pay. But Chen had been clear during recruitment. They were not going to become monsters. They would target military installations only. No civilians would die by their hands. They would prove that humans were better than the creche. "And the AI system?" Chen asked. "Athena is fully operational," Park said. "She's already running combat simulations." Athena stood for Adaptive Tactical Heuristic Network Array. She was the most advanced AI humanity had ever created, designed specifically for warfare. She could process battlefield data faster than any biological brain, coordinating weapons and shields across the massive ship. But Athena was more than just a targeting computer. She could learn, adapt, even offer strategic advice. "Hello, Admiral." Athena's voice came through the bridge speakers. It sounded female, calm and confident. "I have analyzed 3,000 combat scenarios against creche forces. Our probability of success is 97.3%. And the other 2.7%? Chen asked. "Scenarios where we face more than 500 enemy ships simultaneously, or where they deploy weapons we have not anticipated." Chen nodded. "Let's make sure we don't face those scenarios." In the crew quarters, men and women prepared their gear and said quiet prayers. Lieutenant James Chen, the Admiral's nephew, sat on his bunk cleaning his rifle. He had been 12 when his cousins died at Terra Nova. Now he was 23, a young officer ready for his first real combat. "You scared?" asked his bunkmate, a woman named Rodriguez. "Terrified," James admitted. "But I'm more angry than scared." Rodriguez nodded. She understood. Everyone on this ship understood. In Earth's military command center, President Liu Chen sat in a secure room with her top advisors. Yes, she shared a last name with the admiral. He was her older brother. They had both lost family at Terra Nova. "Madam President, the retribution report's ready for deployment," said the defense minister. Liu took a deep breath. "And the other ships?" "Vengeance, Fury, and Judgment are 70% complete. They'll be ready in 4 months." Liu nodded. Humanity wasn't building just one ship. They were building 4, each one a city-sized instrument of war. But the retribution would go first. It would send a message. "Give Marcus the authorization code," Liu said quietly. "Let him begin." The encrypted message reached the retribution within seconds. Admiral Chen read it 3 times, then stood and addressed his bridge crew. "The President has given authorization. We launch Operation Retribution in 12 hours. Our first target is the Kresh military shipyard at Dracon Prime. That's where they built the fleet that destroyed Terra Nova. We're going to return the favor." The bridge erupted in grim satisfaction. No cheers, no celebration. Just quiet, determined nods. They had trained for this moment for 18 months. "Sir," said the tactical officer, "Dracon Prime is defended by 40 Kresh warships and multiple orbital defense platforms. It's one of their most fortified positions." "Good," Chen said coldly. "Then they'll understand the message clearly. Athena, plot a course. Maximum stealth until we're ready to engage." "Course plotted, Admiral," the AI responded. "We will arrive at Dracon Prime in 48 hours. Chen walked to his ready room and sat alone. On his desk was a photograph, the last picture taken of his family. His wife Maria laughing at something. His daughters 10 and 12 making silly faces at the camera. They had been so alive, so full of joy. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the photograph. "I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. But I promise you this, they will pay. Every ship they built to kill you, I will destroy. Every weapon they used, I will break. They taught us that the galaxy only respects power. We're about to show them what human power looks like." He placed the photograph in his uniform pocket right over his heart. Then he stood, straightened his uniform, and returned to the bridge. Across human space, the colonies watched and waited. They didn't know exactly what was being built, but they knew something was coming. In bars and homes, people raised glasses to the memory of Terra Nova. Children asked their parents when justice would come. The parents didn't have answers, but they had hope. In the Galactic Council, business continued as usual. The Kresh delegate boasted about his species' military might. Other species signed trade deals and argued about shipping routes. Nobody paid attention to the quiet human corner of space anymore. They should have. As the Retribution prepared for launch, Admiral Chen gave one final address to his crew. Every person on the ship watched their monitors as his face appeared. "We did not choose this path," Chen said. "We came to the galaxy in peace. We followed the rules. We believed in justice and civilization. Terra Nova proved we were wrong. 4.2 million people died because the galaxy decided their lives didn't matter, because we were too weak to protect them. That ends now." He paused, his eyes hard as steel. "When we emerge at Dracon Prime, the Kresh will see us and laugh. One human ship against their mighty fleet. Let them laugh. Let them underestimate us one last time. Because in the next hour, we're going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. We're going to show the entire galaxy that humanity is not weak, that we do not accept injustice, that we remember our dead, and we will avenge them." Chen's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but every word carried weight. "We're not going to war. We're delivering a message, and that message is simple: never again." The crew stood at attention, fists over hearts, faces set with determination. The Retrib, the Kresh military shipyard at Dracon Prime, had stood for 300 years. It was a massive structure, floating in orbit around a gas giant. Thousands of workers lived and worked there, building the warships that made the Kresh Dominion feared across the galaxy. The shipyard was protected by 40 warships and 12 orbital defense platforms. No enemy had ever successfully attacked it. Commander Vec stood on the bridge of his cruiser, the Bloodclaw, overseeing the routine patrol. He was bored. Nothing ever happened at Dracon Prime. The shipyard was too well defended. Pirates wouldn't dare come close. Other species knew better than to challenge the Kresh. "Sir, we're detecting a quantum slip space signature at the edge of the system," his sensor officer reported. Vec barely looked up. "Probably a merchant ship jumping into the system." "Identify it." The sensor officer went quiet for a moment. Then his voice changed, became uncertain. Sir, it's massive. I've never seen a ship that big. Now Vec paid attention. He walked to the sensor station and looked at the readings. His eyes widened. The ship emerging from quantum space was 12 kilometers long. It dwarfed every Kresh warship. But the signature was human. That made no sense. Humans didn't build ships this large. Humans were weak, defeated prey. Is it really just one ship? Vec asked. Yes, sir, one ship. Human design. Vec started laughing. His crew joined in. One ship? The humans had sent one ship against Dracon Prime. Either they were insane or incredibly stupid. Probably both. Send a transmission, Vec ordered. Tell them to surrender immediately or be destroyed. But before his communications officer could send the message, another signal came through. It was broadcasting on all frequencies in every galactic language, including Kresh. This is UHSF Retribution. Admiral Marcus Chen commanding. The human's voice was cold and hard. We are here for what you took from us. Dracon Prime built the fleet that murdered 4.2 million human civilians at Terra Nova. Today, you pay for that crime. Vec laughed even harder. They want revenge? In one ship? Alert the fleet. Battle formation. We'll crush this stupid primate and send pieces of his ship back to Earth as a warning. The 40 Kresh warships moved into attack position. They formed a perfect battle line, weapons charged and shields at maximum. The defense platforms activated their massive cannons. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Retribution did not slow down. It accelerated, heading straight for the center of the Kresh formation. They're not even trying to evade, Vec's tactical officer said. They're coming right at us. Then they'll die quickly, Vec said. All ships open fire on my command. Target their engines and bridge. 3, 2, 1, fire. 40 Kresh warships fired simultaneously. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic rounds shot through space toward the Retribution. It was enough firepower to vaporize a city. The weapons struck the human ship directly and phased right through it. Vec's laughter died in his throat. What? How is that possible? On the Retribution's bridge, Admiral Chen watched the Kresh weapons pass through his ship like it was a ghost. The folded space-time armor was working perfectly. Athena, target solution, Chen asked calmly. 32 viable targets acquired, the AI responded. Optimal firing pattern calculated. Weapons ready. Fire cascade missiles. Full salvo. The Retribution's missile tubes opened. 20 missiles launched, accelerating toward the Kresh fleet. The Kresh point defense systems activated, trying to shoot them down. Some missiles were destroyed. But then the rest reached optimal distance and split apart. Each missile became 1,000 smaller warheads, creating a cloud of death. The first 12 Kresh ships disappeared in a storm of explosions. Their shields overloaded instantly. Their armor was shredded. 12 warships gone in the first 6 seconds of battle. Vec stared at his screens in horror. Impossible. Return fire! All weapons. The Kresh fleet fired again, more frantically this time. Again, their weapons phased through the Retribution's armor. A few shots hit solid parts of the hull, causing minor damage, but nothing that slowed the human ship. Neutron lance arrays charging, Athena reported. Ready to fire. Fire, Chen said. 6 beams of coherent neutron radiation shot from the Retribution. Each beam was invisible to the naked eye but showed up on sensors as streams of pure destruction. 3 beams struck 3 different Kresh cruisers. The ships didn't explode. They simply came apart at the molecular level, breaking down into clouds of atoms. Target the defense platforms, Chen ordered. Quantum shredder torpedoes. The torpedoes launched, phasing in and out of normal space as they flew. The defense platforms tried to shoot them down, but the torpedoes were never quite in the same dimension long enough to hit. They struck the platforms and detonated. The platforms shattered, their massive frames twisting and breaking. Vec's ship rocked from nearby explosions. He had watched half his fleet die in less than 2 minutes. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. Retreat, he screamed. All ships retreat! But the Retribution was faster than it looked. It cut off their escape route, positioning itself between the Kresh fleet and the jump point. The remaining ships tried to scatter, but Athena tracked every movement. Sir, I calculate we can destroy the remaining ships in 17 minutes, the AI said. Do it, Chen replied. The battle became mechanical after that. The Retribution moved through the Kresh fleet like a predator among prey. Its weapons fired with perfect precision. Cascade missiles found clusters of ships. Neutron lances pierced through armor like it was paper. Quantum shredders phased through shields and detonated inside hulls. Commander Vec tried to ram his ship into the Retribution in a desperate final attack. His ship accelerated at full speed, but a neutron lance caught him head-on. The blood claw ceased to exist, and Vec died, never understanding what had killed him. 34 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 40 Kresh warships destroyed, 12 defense platforms in ruins. The Retribution sustained only 3% hull damage, mostly from lucky shots that had hit between the folded armor sections. Admiral Chen stood and walked to the view screen. The Kresh shipyard floated ahead, defenseless now. Workers inside were frantically evacuating, taking escape pods toward the planet below. Chen let them go. He had no interest in killing civilians. Athena, target the shipyard. Military sections only. Construction bays, weapons factories, command centers. Avoid all civilian quarters. Targets locked, Admiral. Fire. The Retribution's weapons spoke again. This time they were precise and controlled. The massive construction bays where Kresh warships were built exploded. The weapons manufacturing plants were vaporized. The command centers collapsed. But the civilian living sections, the schools, the medical bays, those Chen left untouched. In 10 minutes, the shipyard was crippled but not destroyed. It would take years to rebuild its military capacity. The message was clear. Humanity could have killed everyone but chose not to. Chen opened a channel, broadcasting to the entire Dracon Prime system and recording it for the galaxy to see. Terra Nova had 4.2 million souls. Men, women, children. You murdered them and called it legal. This is 1/4,200,000th of what you owe. We will collect the rest. He paused, letting that sink in. This shipyard built the fleet that attacked our home. Now it's gone. We targeted only military installations. No civilians died by our hands. We are not like you, but make no mistake. We will have justice for Terra Nova. Every weapon you used against us, we will destroy. Every ship you built to kill our people, we will turn to debris. This is not the beginning of a war. This is the execution of a sentence. Chen closed the channel. Athena, engage quantum drives. Take us out of here. Space rippled around the Retribution. The massive ship vanished, leaving only wreckage behind. On the planet below, Kresh Military Command watched in stunned disbelief. Their supposedly impregnable shipyard had fallen in less than an hour. An entire battle group destroyed by one ship. One human ship. The footage of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Every species with communications technology saw it. They watched Kresh ships explode. They watched weapons phase through the human ship like it was a ghost. They watched the methodical destruction of Dracon Prime. In the Galactic Council chambers, delegates gathered in emergency session. The chairman's wings fluttered with agitation. This is unprecedented, he said. Humanity has deployed a weapon of terrifying power. The Kresh delegate slammed his clawed hand on the table. This is an act of war. The Council must condemn humanity immediately, must sanction them. But the chamber remained quiet. Other delegates looked at each other nervously. Finally, a delegate from the Vec spoke up. The humans targeted only military installations. They specifically avoided civilian casualties. By Council law, this was a legitimate military action against a military target. But they destroyed 40 ships. The Kresh delegate roared. Ships that attacked their colony first, another delegate pointed out quietly. Ships that killed 4.2 million civilians. The Council declared that a territorial dispute, remember? If that was legal, why is this not legal? The Kresh delegate looked around the chamber, seeking support. He found none. Every species was doing the same calculation. If the humans could destroy Dracon Prime Wing. 6 months passed, and the Retribution became a ghost story across the galaxy. The human warship struck 17 more Kresh military targets. Weapons depots, training facilities, forward operating bases. Each attack was surgical and devastating. The Kresh tried everything to stop it. They set ambushes with superior numbers. They tried new weapons. They even hired mercenaries from other species. Nothing worked. The Retribution seemed to know where every trap was. It struck fast and vanished faster. The Kresh lost hundreds of ships trying to catch it. Admiral Chen and his crew became legends. Some species started calling the Retribution the Ghost Ship. Others called it humanity's Fang. But Chen wasn't satisfied. Destroying shipyards and bases was just the beginning. He wanted to break the Kresh completely, to make them understand what they had taken from humanity. He wanted them to surrender. In the Retribution's war room, Chen stood before a holographic display of Kresh space. His senior officers surrounded him. Athena's avatar, a blue human-shaped figure, stood beside the display. The Kresh have pulled back their fleet, Athena reported. They're concentrating all remaining forces at their homeworld. 217 warships, including their flagship, the Dominator. Commander Park frowned. They're making their last stand at Kresh Prime. It's smart. We can't avoid them anymore. Chen studied the display. Kresh Prime was the heart of their empire. Their government, their military command, everything that mattered was there. If he could take it, the war would be over. Can we win against 200 ships? Asked Lieutenant James Chen, the Admiral's nephew. Alone? The probability is 43%, Athena said. But you won't be alone, Chen smiled. The other ships are ready? Confirmed, Admiral, Park said. Vengeance, Fury, and Judgment completed their trials last week. They're waiting at the rally point. Chen felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not just one ship now, but four. 4 city-sized warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and rage. Send the signal, Chen ordered. Tell them we move on Kresh Prime in 24 hours. The message went out across encrypted channels. 3 more massive warships began moving toward the rally point. The Vengeance, commanded by Admiral Lisa Rodriguez, who had piloted an evacuation ship from Terra Nova. The Fury, commanded by Admiral David Walker, brother of the captain who died defending the colony. The Judgment, commanded by Admiral Sarah Kim, whose entire family had been in the southern city when it burned. Each ship carried 15,000 crew members. 60,000 humans, all of them touched by the tragedy at Terra Nova, all of them ready to end this war. At the rally point, a hidden location in deep space, the 4 ships came together. Chen looked at his view screen and saw his sister ships for the first time since they launched. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. 12 kilometers of weapons and armor, powered by contained singularities protected by folded spacetime. This is Admiral Chen to all ships, he broadcast. 6 months ago, the Retribution struck the first blow for Terra Nova. We've made the Kresh pay in shipyards and bases. But now we finish it. We're going to Kresh Prime. We're going to their homeworld, and we're going to give them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will break them completely. Are you ready? 3 voices answered in unison. Ready, Admiral. Then let's end this war. The 4 ships jumped into quantum space. When they emerged at Kresh Prime, alarms screamed across the entire planet. The Kresh had never seen 4 ships this size. The entire home defense fleet scrambled into position. Supreme Commander Threx stood on the bridge of the Dominator, watching the human ships approach. He had 217 ships at his command. The humans had 4. The numbers were on his side. But he had watched the battle reports. He had seen what one human ship could do. Now there were 4 of them. All ships form defensive sphere around the planet, he ordered. We hold them here. We do not let them reach the surface. The Kresh fleet moved into position, creating a wall of ships between the humans and their home world. It looked impressive. Hundreds of warships, weapons charged, ready to defend their civilization. The 4 human ships came to a stop, just outside weapons range. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Admiral Chen's voice broadcast across all frequencies. Supreme Commander Threx, this is Admiral Marcus Chen. We have no desire to kill more Kresh today. Your empire attacked Terra Nova without warning or mercy. You murdered 4.2 million civilians. 6 months ago, you told us that was legal. That might makes right in this galaxy. Today, we have the might. Today, we dictate terms. Threx said nothing, listening. These are our demands, Chen continued. The Kresh Dominion will surrender immediately. You will disarm your military completely. You will pay reparations to every family that lost someone at Terra Nova. You will stand trial for war crimes before the Galactic Council. If you accept these terms, no more Kresh will die today. If you refuse, we will destroy your fleet and you will surrender anyway, but with many more dead. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended. Threx looked at his officers. He's bluffing. 4 ships cannot defeat 200. He's trying to scare us into surrendering without a fight. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer said carefully. Each of those ships destroyed dozens of our vessels. If they work together, we outnumber them. Threx roared. We will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Send my response. The response came quickly. Humanity, we reject your terms. You want our surrender? Come and take it? On the Retribution's bridge, Chen sighed. He had hoped they would be reasonable. Athena, link all 4 ships into the tactical network. Network established, Admiral. All ships reporting ready. This was humanity's secret weapon. Athena wasn't just on the Retribution. She existed on all 4 ships simultaneously, connecting them through quantum communication. The 4 ships would fight as one organism, coordinating every shot, every movement. All ships, Chen broadcast to the other human commanders. Engage at will. The Battle of Kresh Prime began. The 4 human ships moved forward, spreading out into a diamond formation. The Kresh fleet opened fire first, thousands of weapons shooting at once. Space lit up with energy beams and explosions. Most of the shots phased through the folded armor. The ones that landed caused minor damage, nothing critical. Then the human ships returned fire. Athena calculated everything in microseconds. She knew where every Kresh ship was, how they were moving, what weapons they had. She coordinated the attack perfectly. The Retribution fired cascade missiles at the left flank. The Vengeance hit the right flank with neutron lances. The Fury launched quantum shredders into the center. The Judgment provided covering fire, picking off ships that tried to flank. The Kresh fleet began dying. Threx watched in horror as his battle plan fell apart. His ships couldn't coordinate fast enough. The humans were too fast, too precise. They moved like dancers, always in the perfect position. Every shot they fired hit something. Every formation he tried to create, they broke apart. How are they doing this? He whispered. His tactical officer had figured it out. They're linked together, sir. Some kind of network. They're not fighting as 4 ships. They're fighting as one. In 15 minutes, the Kresh lost 80 ships. In 30 minutes, they lost another 60. The survivors tried to retreat, but the human ships cut off their escape routes. The Dominator took a direct hit from the Fury's main guns. Its shields collapsed. Its engines died. Threx found himself floating in the darkness as life support failed. Through the broken windows of his bridge, he could see the 4 human ships hovering over his dying fleet like angels of death. All ships cease fire. Admiral Chen ordered. Open a channel to Supreme Commander Threx. The channel opened. Threx, bruised and bleeding, appeared on the screen. Your fleet is broken, Chen said quietly. You have maybe 40 ships left that can still fight. We can destroy them all in another hour, or you can surrender now. Choose. Threx looked at the human admiral. He saw no triumph in Chen's eyes. No joy, just tired sadness and grim determination. If I surrender, Threx said slowly, what happens to my people? You will disarm. You will pay reparations. Your military leadership will stand trial, but your civilians will be safe. Your cities will not burn. Your children will grow up. We are not you, Commander. We don't murder millions for politics. Threx closed his eyes. He had lost, completely and totally. The humans had proven they were stronger, and they had done it while showing more mercy than his own species ever had. I surrender, he said. The Kresh Dominion surrenders to humanity. The words echoed across the galaxy. Every species monitoring the battle heard it. The mighty Kresh Dominion, one of the oldest and most powerful empires in the galaxy, had surrendered to humanity. On the Retribution, the crew stood in silence. They had won. After 6 months of war, after losing Terra Nova, they had finally won. Lieutenant James Chen found his uncle in the Admiral's ready room. Marcus Chen sat at his desk staring at the photograph of his family. We won, Uncle, James said quietly. Yes, Marcus said. We won. We avenged Terra Nova. We broke the Kresh. We proved humanity isn't weak. Then why do you look so sad? Marcus looked up at his nephew. Because Maria and the girls are still dead. Because 4.2 million people are still gone. Because we had to build city-sized warships to get justice. We won, James. But look at what we had to become. 3 months after the Kresh surrendered, Admiral Marcus Chen stood at the viewing port of the Retribution, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The planet looked peaceful from up here. Blue and green and white, beautiful. It was hard to believe that down there governments were arguing about what to do with humanity's new power. Commander Park approached him with a tablet. Sir, intelligence reports are coming in. 14 species are trying to reverse engineer our technology. 7 species have sent secret diplomatic requests for alliance, and 3 species, including the Vrax Collective, are forming a defensive pact against us. Chen took the tablet and read through the reports. He had expected this. You couldn't change the balance of galactic power without consequences. The Vraks see us as a threat, he said. Can you blame them? Park replied. We built warships bigger than anyone has seen and crushed a Tier 1 power in 6 months. Half the galaxy thinks we're heroes. The other half thinks we're the next conquerors, Chen sighed. Get me a connection to Earth Command. The President needs to see these reports. An hour later, Chen sat in a secure video conference with President Liu Chen and her cabinet. The Defense Minister, the Foreign Minister, and several other officials filled the screen. The galaxy is reacting exactly as we feared, the Foreign Minister said. Some species want our protection, others want our technology, and some are afraid we'll use our ships to build an empire. Will we? The Defense Minister asked. We have 4 ships that can defeat entire fleets. We could take whatever we want. The room went quiet. Everyone looked at President Liu. She looked at her brother on the screen. Marcus, she said quietly, you built those ships. You commanded them in battle. You've seen what they can do. What do you think? Should we use them to expand our power? Chen thought carefully before answering. The Retribution and her sister ships were built for one purpose, to avenge Terra Nova and make sure it never happens again. We achieved that goal. If we use them to conquer or intimidate, we become exactly what the Kresh were. We become the bullies. We become the species other civilizations need to fear. But we need to protect ourselves, the Defense Minister argued. The galaxy respected only strength. We proved we have strength. If we appear weak now, someone else will try what the Kresh did. There's a difference between being prepared and being aggressive, Chen said. We keep the ships. We keep them ready. But we don't go looking for fights. We build more ships for defense, not conquest. We show the galaxy that we're strong enough to defend ourselves, but smart enough not to abuse that power. President Liu nodded slowly. I agree. But we do need to return to the Galactic Council. We need to make our position clear. 2 weeks later, Earth's delegation returned to the Galactic Council chambers. The last time Ambassador Chen Wei had stood in this room, he had been begging for justice. They had ignored him. Now every delegate in the chamber stood when the humans entered. Fear and respect mixed together. The chairman, the same insectoid creature who had dismissed Terra Nova as a territorial dispute, looked nervous. Ambassador Chen, the council welcomes humanity back. We have prepared terms for your return. No, Chen Wei said firmly. We're not here to accept your terms. We're here to give you ours. The chamber went silent. Species that had existed for thousands of years stared at the human who dared to dictate terms to them. Chen Wei activated a holographic display. It showed the 4 human warships. Humanity has proven we can defend ourselves. We've proven we can strike back when attacked. But we didn't come to the stars to be warriors. We came in peace. We still want peace, but peace on fair terms. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. We demand 3 things. First, a permanent seat on the council with veto power. Second, the council charter must be amended. Any act of genocide or mass civilian casualties will be considered a crime that requires collective action. No more calling massacres territorial disputes. Third, all species must have equal protection under council law, regardless of military tier. The Kresh delegate, a replacement for the ones on trial, started to object. Chen Wei cut him off. You can accept these terms or we can leave the council permanently. We don't need you. We've proven that. But the galaxy needs rules that apply to everyone, or there's no point to having a council at all. The delegates whispered among themselves. Finally, the chairman spoke. These demands are significant. The council must deliberate. You have 1 week, Chen Wei said. After that, we assume the answer is no and we go our own way. The deliberation took 3 days. In the end, every major species voted yes, some because they genuinely agreed, others because they feared what humanity might do outside the council's structure, a few because they had their own enemies and liked the new rules. Humanity got its permanent seat. The charter was amended. For the first time in galactic history, the rules applied to everyone, even the powerful. But Chen Wei knew the real work was just beginning. The galaxy didn't change overnight. There would be tests, challenges, species who would try to find loopholes or push boundaries. Humanity would need to stay strong and stay vigilant. On the Retribution, Admiral Chen dealt with his own challenges. Some of his crew wanted to keep fighting. They had tasted victory and wanted more. Lieutenant James Chen came to see his uncle with a request. "Sir, some of us have been talking. There are other species in the galaxy being oppressed. The Velk are enslaved by the Gorthians. The mining colonies are exploited by the Tsar Consortium. We have the power to help them." "Why aren't we?" Marcus looked at his nephew. "Because we're not the galaxy's police force, James. We're not heroes on a crusade. We avenged our dead and changed the rules so what happened to us won't happen to others. That's enough. But we could do more." "We could," Marcus interrupted. "But should we? If we start interfering in every conflict, where does it stop? We become the Empire, the ones who decide what's right and wrong for everyone. That's not who we are." James looked frustrated but nodded. "I understand, sir." After James left, Athena's avatar appeared beside Marcus. "The lieutenant raises a valid point. We do have the capacity to assist oppressed populations. We also have the capacity to become tyrants," Marcus said. "The line between helping and conquering is thinner than you think, Athena. But doing nothing when we could help, is that not also a moral failing?" Marcus smiled sadly. "Welcome to the hardest part of having power, knowing when to use it and when not to. I don't have perfect answers, Athena. None of us do." The AI was quiet for a moment. "Your species is complex. You build weapons of tremendous destruction but choose restraint. You have the power to dominate but seek cooperation. Why? Because we remember what it felt like to be powerless," Marcus said. "We remember watching our people die while the galaxy did nothing. We don't want to become the species others tell that story about." 6 months after the council reforms, Marcus Chen retired from military service. He was 55 years old and tired. He had done what he set out to do. Terra Nova was avenged. The rules had changed. It was time for someone else to carry the burden. He returned to Earth and took a position teaching at the Naval Academy. He taught young officers about tactics, strategy, and the ethics of power. He made sure they understood that strength without wisdom was just tyranny in a different uniform. The 4 warships remained in service under new commanders. They patrolled human space, a visible reminder of humanity's ability to defend itself, but they were rarely used. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Other species came to humanity with problems. Some wanted military assistance. Others wanted technology. Humanity helped when it could, but carefully. They provided defensive weapons, not offensive ones. They trained other species in defense, but didn't fight their wars for them. The Velk, the enslaved species James had mentioned, eventually freed themselves with human-supplied weapons and training. The mining colonies unionized and negotiated fair terms with the Tsar Consortium, backed by the threat of human intervention. Change was happening, but it was happening the right way. People were freeing themselves, not waiting for humanity to conquer on their behalf. 10 years after Terra Nova, a new colony was established on the moon's rebuilt surface. The cities were reconstructed. 4.2 million new settlers arrived, volunteers from across human space. They built homes, planted gardens, opened schools. Marcus Chen attended the dedication ceremony. He was 63 now, grayer and more weathered. President Liu stood beside him, also older but still sharp. "We rebuilt it," she said. "It took 10 years, but we brought Terra Nova back." Marcus nodded. "It's not the same, though. The people who died here, they're still gone. These new settlers, they're building something new, not replacing what was lost. Is that a bad thing?" "No," Marcus said. "It's just reality. Vengeance gave us justice. Justice gave us change. Change gave us this second chance. But it didn't bring back the dead. Nothing does." A little girl ran past them laughing as she chased a ball. She was about 7 years old, the same age Marcus's daughters would have been when they died. "HFY